Hi everyone, welcome back to For Teachers. I thought it'd be really helpful to put together a Q&A video all about your first year of teaching. The first question that I was sent was, do you have any tips for remembering the names of students? I always say to people when they're starting teaching, the first thing you need to do is learn the names of your class. If you're hoping to develop relationships and a behaviour management system in your class, it is so important that you learn the names of your students. If the class teacher from the year before has got a copy of a photo of the children, or if there's a blog that you can access, something that I used to do is I would write down the names of the children, print out a picture, stick the names onto the picture of the children and learn them. I know it sounds like something that would take a long time and something that you can probably do when you meet them anyway, but I just always find it so helpful to know the names of the children. I think they'll be very surprised and shocked if you walk in on that first day and you already know some of their names and you can just fire them out. In a noisy room full of students talking, if you say the name of a child quietly, it's very, very likely that they will notice and they will look up. It can be such an amazing and effective tool to sort of build early relationships with the children. Another question that I was asked is, did you meet your class before the summer holidays? Is it normal to have already met your class? I actually did meet my first class before I started teaching them. I went into the school that I was going to be working at and I went into the classroom to get to know the children a little bit before I started teaching them. I don't know if this is particularly common. I'm sure there's plenty of schools that the first time you ever meet your class is the first time you walk into the room and you see them. I'm not sure if I would advise meeting them first. There's something about not being the class teacher that sort of prints on you as a person. You want sort of them to see you as their main class teacher on their first day, and children do attach quite a lot to the class teacher. They will already have a person in that room that they consider to be their class teacher, their main role model. Sometimes if you interrupt that, especially at the end of the year when it's nearly the summer holidays and the children are getting ready for a break and the class teacher is tired, you might find it's not the best time to walk into the room and introduce yourself as a new person for next year. So I would probably say wait until you first meet them and you're their class teacher. But at the end of the day, it was quite helpful for me to walk into the room and get to know the children a little bit. In fact, the children that I had in my first class were the children that I had my interview lesson with, so I did already know them a bit anyway. Just make the most of whatever situation you are put in and don't feel any pressure to get to know the children really well before they are your class, because it's all going to be different on that first day anyway. What time will I realistically be expected to work until I have kids of my own? Or Ryan and I have done lots of videos about teacher work-life balance, which you can check out in the description below. Be aware that your first year of teaching, you will be giving up a lot of your extra time. I think I used to get to work at 7:30 in the morning and I would stay until 5:30 and then go home and then do work at home as well. I know that the first year is incredibly difficult because you're getting to know the logistics of teaching, you're doing a huge amount of lesson planning, you're making resources that you want to use, and you're building relationships with the children and the staff as well because you're getting to know a whole new group of people. So yes, you will probably be putting in quite a lot of time in that first year. Just be careful that you look after yourself as well. You don't want to completely burn out in that first year. Try and get a feel for what sort of time other teachers in your school are leaving. If everyone is clocking out at 4 o'clock, that's okay as long as you are able to get your work done and then clock out at 4 o'clock with them. On the flip side, if everyone is clocking out at 6 o'clock every night but you feel as though you've got your work done by 4:30, there's no harm in leaving. If you've been told you can go at that time, don't feel pressure to stay in school late just because everyone else is doing it. You know how you manage your work, and if you've managed to get everything done on your list, there is no harm in going to the gym, going to a club and taking time for yourself as well. It's a really important part of finding a work-life balance. Okay, the next question is from somebody who's going to be an NQT next year, and in the UK we call them newly qualified teachers. That's your first year of teaching. I've been told I have to go on a course during my NQT time next year. Is this normal? Yeah, your NQT time is at the discretion of the school. So some schools would give you this time and say you can take this time to catch up on your planning or your marking or assessment. It is quite normal for your school to say, we're going to send you somewhere, we're going to send you for some professional development, we're going to send you to a course that you can learn some new skills on. If you're really proactive and you're really sensible about this, you could actually use it to your advantage. You could say to the school, look, I'm really interested in reading and writing or computing or something to do with PE, and you could say, I found a really good course, can you please send me on it? But to directly answer that question, yes, it is normal for a school to send you for training somewhere. So if you're lucky enough to get that time for marking and planning, fantastic. But also remember that being sent on a course is quite a fortunate thing to have as well. You will learn a lot there and you might as well make the most of it. Any tips for behaviour management, as my mentor at university has told me to improve this? And I also got a second question which said, any tips for behaviour management for a brand new class? Ryan and I have actually made a behaviour management video. It's one of our most popular videos on this channel and I've linked it down below. I would say for behaviour management, the number one key thing, and I'm sure you've been told this before, is relationships. When you're a student teacher, it can be really, really tricky to build relationships with students because you've walked into the room, you're an unfamiliar face, you're staying for 6 weeks and then you're leaving again. But your own class will be completely different. You will have lots of time to build on a relationship, to get to know the children, to plan lessons that suit the kind of things that they're interested in, and you will find that those relationships start to click into place a lot easier when you are a class teacher and not just following the classroom setup of someone else. You'll have your own class. You can put things in place that suit you. So if you've got ideas for charts, systems, rewards, as long as these fit what your school is doing as well, you can put these in place quite early. Make sure you build connections with families as early as possible and send lots of praise home. That will really help with your behaviour management as well. Notice the little things that the children do that are positive, and that will indirectly affect the negative side of behaviour. More tips down below. I am terrified of standing in front of the class on day one. How will I face them? What you've got to understand about teaching is that it is so scary at the start and it is completely normal to feel terrified. I can remember having that feeling, that first day anxiety of having to stand in front of a class of 30 and them stare up at you and just expect you to know everything. When you are teaching as a student or you've been on placements or your PGCE or anything like that, you just don't have that sense of ownership over the class. On that first day for you as a teacher, you will walk in, and if you're anything like me, you will feel like you know nothing. Everything has gone from your head, you've forgotten everything you did on placement, everything from your training, and you just have to start from scratch. I would say for that first day, specifically that first day, not the week, not the month, that first day, I would say plan it out really, really well. Have a list of everything that you plan on hitting on that day, whether that's a getting to know you activity or a maths lesson. It's fine to put that in on the first day. Don't worry about holding that back because you want to establish routines as quickly as you can. Really, really just imagine each step of the day methodically and have backup plans for everything as well, because you might plan something that you think will last an hour and then it's over in 20 minutes and you're stood there like, be willing to accept that the timetable will change, because that's a really important part of teaching as well. You don't know if a child will bring some kind of discussion to the class and you want to address that and discuss it, but also spend a lot of time on that first day just talking to the children, getting to know them, because you're going to be working with them for a whole year. Don't worry about being terrified. Even returning teachers that first day going back is still scary. Next year will be my 6th year of teaching, and I will still be nervous on that first day facing a new class. It's part of the job. I don't know if other teachers ever get over that and ever start feeling completely confident on day one, but I think it's a nervous part of the year no matter how much experience you have. Next question is quite specific, so it says, university hasn't taught me anything about assessment or safeguarding, so how am I supposed to deal with this without sounding clueless? I would say there's only so much you can really learn at university. There's only so much you can really learn as a student teacher. There are always going to be areas that you're completely unfamiliar with on that first day. Assessment is tricky because you have to find out what your school does, what their policies are. Try and get them to send you how would you assess reading and writing at your new school. Try and speak to the English coordinator or the maths coordinator and just find out, how do we assess reading and writing in this school? Do we have a handwriting policy? If you're starting at a new school, they should be able to send you a handbook with all this information or some kind of information that shows you exactly how things are done in your school. And I would spend a bit of time over summer, if it's a nice day, sit outside maybe, and just have a little read through and familiarise yourself with the system that's being used, because you might find that the last school you were at placement with had an assessment policy that looks nothing like the school you're going in to work at. Be prepared to change and adapt to suit whatever the school have got put in place. Of course, as a class teacher, you will have some freedom with your assessment as well. You might be able to add things in that coincide with the school's assessment policy, so just check with someone on that. And also ask questions, don't worry. At university, they can't teach you everything. There isn't enough time to teach you everything. You're going to be learning on the job as a teacher anyway. There will be plenty of training about assessment, so just ask for it if it's available. With regards to safeguarding, I would say that's a really, really tricky one, because again, every school is different with safeguarding. If anyone's unfamiliar with the term, safeguarding would be if there's something in your class that you spot that doesn't add up right. Maybe a child is coming in with bruises on their arms that don't look right, or a child has told you a story in confidence that you feel might need to be passed on to somebody else because it's a very important issue and it needs to be dealt with in order to preserve the safety of that child. Sometimes schools will have a yellow form, or I don't know if it'll always be yellow. I've heard of pink forms as well. And it's like a special file that you keep anything that you notice that doesn't add up or doesn't feel right about a child. You can make a note of this, and it helps to build up a portfolio of anything that just doesn't feel right about that child, or anything that different teachers in the school have noticed, or maybe teaching assistants that work quite closely with that child. For example, if a child discloses information to you and you feel as though maybe somebody needs to take a bit more notice of this, maybe it's a very important thing, perhaps a child has told you that something isn't right at home and it's a bit more serious than just saying I fell out with my sister, or maybe a child has made a disclosure about a family member that just doesn't feel right, I would suggest talk to somebody about safeguarding. There should be somebody at your school who's part of a safeguarding team. They can show you where the forms are. I used to get a few and keep them in my classroom and just have these forms ready, so that if a child came in and I noticed something that just didn't feel right, I could make a note of it, because it's better to fill these forms out and have them go nowhere than not fill them out. And that puzzle piece hasn't been accounted for, because if a child in their second year of learning is spotted with little bruises on their wrists, and in the first year a teacher had spotted the exact same thing, then that might be the puzzle piece that you need in order to support that child and help them out. I would say spend time talking to the safeguarding team, find out exactly how your school structures this, because it's a really, really important part of being a teacher. Make sure, even if you didn't learn a lot about this at university, it's something that you put high on your priority list as a newly qualified teacher. Okay, this question was for somebody who asked about engaging students in all subjects. They actually asked specifically about history, but I wouldn't say I'm like the best history teacher. I'm okay. I would say that just be aware that if a lesson seems a little bit dry, if it's just grammar or spelling rules or something like that, try and jazz it up a little bit. What are your children interested in at the moment? Is there any way you can combine that as part of your lesson? If they come into school and they are completely interested in something, a brand new game that's appropriate, a brand new website, something that they're really, really into, see if you can make that part of your curriculum. They will get so much more out of something that they feel ownership of and that they feel they're really, really interested in. So try that out. How long until I can teach abroad like you? For anyone watching this right now who doesn't already know, I'm a primary school teacher from the UK. I worked in the UK for 3 years before flying out to Hong Kong, and that's where I teach now. So I teach in an international school now in Hong Kong, and it's absolutely amazing. I'm having a really, really great time living and working abroad. Anyone who wants to do this and wants to teach abroad, it is something that you can do, definitely. Put it on your list, but at the same time, you need to get some experience in the UK before you can move abroad. There are definitely exceptions to the rule, and there are people that I know who have moved abroad much sooner. Most schools will advertise and they will ask for 3 years of experience teaching in the UK first. I have heard of friends get jobs after 2, and I have heard of friends get jobs after less. Get to know teaching with the curriculum that you studied at university, whether that's the national curriculum or something else. And then yeah, the world is your oyster. Most schools around the world need teachers, so you are really, really fortunate if you speak English as your first language, because lots of international schools will want to hire you. I actually did a Q&A a little bit about international school teaching in my second vlog if you'd like to check that out, and I will be making another video soon talking all about ways to get a job in an international school, a little bit like the one that I've got. But definitely, teaching abroad is an amazing thing to do. If you're thinking about doing that, I would definitely put it onto your list. If you have any more questions, please feel free to post down in the comments box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon.